It's striking that a movement with no leaders, no central office, and no membership list is labeled a terrorist organization. This label is often used to evoke fear and justify certain political actions. This label, pushed by politicians in the US and abroad, conjures an image of a coordinated hierarchical group when Antifa is anything but. The term terrorist is powerful, often used to paint a picture of a clear and present danger. The reality is far more complex. Antifa is a decentralized network, not a traditional organization. It operates more like a movement, with various autonomous groups and individuals who share a common ideology. After high-profile incidents like the assassination of Charlie Kirk, political figures like Trump and Vance have blamed Antifa, vowing to designate it a terrorist group. These accusations often come without concrete evidence, relying on public sentiment and fear. But legally, Antifa doesn't fit the mold. The legal framework for designating terrorist organizations is stringent and specific. There's no U.S. framework for designating domestic groups as terrorist organizations. The State Department's lists are for foreign entities. This makes it legally challenging to label a domestic movement like Antifa as a terrorist group. FBI Director Christopher Wray has clarified, "The FBI investigates violent acts, not ideologies." This distinction is crucial in understanding how law enforcement approaches groups like Antifa. Antifa is an idea, not an organization. It's a collective of individuals, united by a shared opposition to fascism and other forms of extreme right-wing ideology. The anti-fascist movement's lack of structure makes it a ghost-like target for law enforcement. This decentralized nature means there's no single entity to hold accountable. So, what is Antifa really? And what drives its participants? Understanding the motivations and the decentralized nature of this movement is key to comprehending why it defies traditional labels and why it remains a contentious topic in political discourse. To understand Antifa, we first need to look at the reasons people are drawn to join its ranks. Antifa isn't a single organization, but rather a loose network of groups and individuals united by a common cause. People come from all walks of life, but they share a deep concern about the rise of fascism and authoritarianism in society. For many, joining Antifa is a response to seeing hate and violence in their communities. At its core, Antifa is about opposing fascism. Seen as a direct threat to democracy and human dignity, members believe that if fascist ideas are left unchecked, they can quickly spread and undermine the freedoms of everyone. Activists often point to history, arguing that fascism must be stopped before it takes root. They see far-right ideologies as existential threats, not just to specific groups, but to society as a whole. Many are united by a commitment to social justice, opposing racism, homophobia, and transphobia. They see their activism as part of a larger fight for equality and human rights. For these activists, standing by isn't an option. They feel a moral duty to confront hate and protect vulnerable communities. Solidarity and mutual aid are central values, and many join to support friends or neighbors who are targeted. Some are also critical of capitalism and government structures, seeing them as enabling inequality and, at times, even fostering the conditions for fascism to grow. They believe that challenging these systems is essential to creating a fairer world. The fight against fascism is part of a broader struggle for justice and equality. For many, Antifa is just one front in a much larger movement for social change. Activists argue that normal political channels aren't enough to counter the far right. They feel that traditional methods can be too slow or ineffective in the face of urgent threats. This belief in direct action, taking matters into their own hands, is what sets Antifa apart from mainstream politics. For those who join, it's about making an immediate impact and standing up for their values, even when it means taking risks. Antifa isn't a single unified organization. It's a decentralized, leaderless movement. Local groups operate independently, sharing principles but not orders. This structure is intentional. Activists distrust hierarchy, preferring small, autonomous groups for flexibility and resilience. There's no formal membership. Anyone can participate by showing up and taking action. The term Antifa is a label, not an institution, uniting anarchists, socialists, and others against fascism. This fluidity is a strength, but also fuels public confusion and misrepresentation. Without spokespeople or a governing body, any action can be attributed to Antifa, fairly or not. Critics often blame the whole movement for the actions of a few. Understanding Antifa as a broad, multifaceted movement is crucial for honest discussion. Antifa's roots stretch back to 1920s Europe, with the German Antifascistische Action, formed to oppose Hitler's Nazis. Similar groups emerged in Italy to fight Mussolini's blackshirts, establishing a tradition of direct confrontation. After World War II, anti-fascist groups monitored and confronted neo-Nazis and far-right organizations. In the US, the modern movement grew from the Anti-Racist Action Network in the late 1980s, whose motto was, "We go where they go." Antifa's visibility surged after the 2016 election and the rise of the alt-right, leading to new groups forming nationwide. The 2017 United the Right rally in Charlottesville, where anti-fascists clashed with white supremacists, brought the movement into the national spotlight. The violence and tragedy there crystallized the stakes, and Antifa's role as a frontline defense. Charlottesville marked a turning point, embedding Antifa in American political consciousness. Antifa activists employ a wide array of tactics and strategies, each designed to prevent far-right ideologies from gaining a foothold in society. Their approach is multifaceted, adapting to the changing landscape of political activism and the evolving tactics of their opponents. One of the most visible tactics is deplatforming, organizing protests to shut down events featuring far-right speakers. Activists argue that giving a platform to hate speech only normalizes dangerous ideas, and that free speech does not extend to incitement or bigotry. These protests are often highly coordinated, involving both on-the-ground action and online campaigns to pressure venues and sponsors. Online research and exposure, sometimes called doxing, is another controversial tool. By making the identities of white supremacists and far-right organizers public, activists aim to hold them accountable for their actions. This can lead to real-world consequences, such as job loss or social ostracism, but it also raises ethical questions about privacy and vigilantism. Mass mobilization and counter-protests are central to Antifa's strategy. By turning out in large numbers, activists send a clear message of public rejection and provide visible solidarity for communities targeted by hate groups. These gatherings can be empowering, helping people feel less isolated and more supported. While these actions are often intended as defense against potential violence, they can sometimes escalate into confrontations with police or opposing groups. Antifa sees this as a necessary risk to protect vulnerable communities and to disrupt the organization of fascist groups before they can grow. Community organizing and education are equally important pillars of Antifa's work. Through workshops, neighborhood networks, and coalitions with other activist groups, they aim to build resilience and empower people to recognize and resist fascist ideas before they take root. By strengthening the bonds within communities, activists hope to create environments where fascist and far-right ideologies are not just challenged, but are fundamentally unwelcome and unable to spread. Despite the movement's proactive long-term work, media coverage often focuses on confrontational tactics, overshadowing the quieter efforts of education and community support that are just as vital to their mission. Antifa's toolkit is diverse, blending direct confrontation with grassroots community building, legal support, and mutual aid. This combination allows them to respond flexibly to threats as they arise. Ultimately, their goal is clear: to make it impossible for fascism to thrive, ensuring that communities remain safe, inclusive, and resistant to hate. The image of black-clad masked protesters is iconic and controversial. This black bloc tactic provides anonymity, protecting activists from surveillance and retaliation. It's not a group, but a strategy. Blending in makes it hard to single out individuals. The black bloc creates unity and can intimidate opponents, but also draws criticism for enabling illegal acts and evading accountability. Critics see it as menacing. Activists see it as necessary self-defense against violent adversaries. The tactic originated in 1980s Germany and has spread globally. The debate over black bloc tactics reflects the larger conflict. Is it self-defense or a cover for violence? Antifa faces criticism from the right, center, and even parts of the left. The right paints Antifa as a violent, anti-American threat, often blaming it for unrest without evidence. Conspiracy theories, like claims that Antifa staged the January 6th attack, persist despite being debunked. Mainstream liberals and Democrats also condemn Antifa's violent tactics, arguing they undermine social justice causes. Some on the left worry confrontational methods alienate allies and justify state repression. Critics advocate for peaceful protest and broad-based organizing instead of militant tactics. The debate centers on whether Antifa's approach helps or hinders the fight against hate. Defenders of Antifa argue that fascism isn't a normal political view. It's an existential threat that demands direct confrontation. They cite history. Failing to stop fascism early led to catastrophe in Europe. For them, shutting down neo-Nazi rallies is collective self-defense, not aggression. They challenge the idea that deplatforming violates free speech, arguing that no one is owed a platform for hate. Defenders say anti-fascist violence is a targeted response to a greater threat, not morally equivalent to fascist violence. They point to successes. When far-right events are met with overwhelming opposition, it deters future organizing. For supporters, these tactics are necessary, even if unpopular, to keep society safe from fascism's resurgence. The Antifa debate forces us to confront tough questions about protest, violence, and democracy. Urban conflict reflects deeper social and political divides that won't disappear soon. Understanding groups like Antifa is crucial as we navigate these challenges. Society faces a choice: increase surveillance and repression, or address root causes like inequality and alienation. Simplistic labels won't solve the problem, they deepen divides and push more toward radicalism. We must distinguish between hate and the messy work of opposing it. There are no easy answers, but honest engagement is essential for a healthy democracy. The story of anti-fascism is still being written. Understanding it helps us shape the future.